Azimio la Umoja, the One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua over the weekend started their campaign tour of the northeastern province with a basket full of promises. They promised that they will reopen the Kenya-Somalia border to enable business flow between the two countries, adding that his government will focus on infrastructure improvement in the region to open it up.
Odinga also promised to ensure security improves in Mandera and in northeastern at large, even as the region has continued to suffer attacks from the ragtag Somalia-based Al-Shabaab militants. The latest incident was on Thursday, where armed militants stopped the bus coming into Mandera and lectured the passengers for at least 2 hours. Now, joining us this morning is Abdullahi Alas, governance and policy analyst, for more updates on this. I mean, you did teach me how to say good morning, and I've totally forgotten. I was going to say to you, Subak Mahanese.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, let's get into it. The border was closed on the 29th, or in 2019, I beg your pardon, May 2019. Quickly tell us, why was the border closed in the first place, and what impact has the closure had on their economies?
Thank you for having me. Remember, Kenya has gone to Somalia as people who are going to protect their borders from the attacks of Al-Shabaab from 2011. And after that, there were a lot of, remember Kenya has almost 700 plus kilometers that is very porous along the Somali-Kenyan border. So there were easy attacks in most of the towns and roads and even in cities like Nairobi. So the government thought at that time, without necessarily consulting the locals, that it's closing the border. Now, in one way, the border is closed by virtue of the government saying it. But if you go to the border today, or if you send your reporter to come to Mandera and then he documents what's happening here, is that it is not literally that closed. But there are donkey carts coming, people are still flowing in. It is porous. The government talked about it's going to build a wall that has stopped in some time. So by and large, they might have said they have closed it, but I don't know what they meant when they said closed it. Technically on paper, yes. But if you go to Mandera-Bulahawa border today, you won't say it has ever been closed.
Quickly, can you just quickly share, before we move to something else, I want to also talk about the effect it's had on both economies.
Well, it has only exacerbated corruption and how people are going to do the black market business. If you come to Mandera, you'll get close to 400 donkey carts carrying goods coming in through the Panya routes or through the different parts of the border. So when the effect it had is it might increase food prices because the people bringing goods from Somalia will, right now, because of the COVID, because of the economical meltdown, because of the war in Ukraine, most of the petrol and diesel fuel has gone up, food has gone up. So if it was coordinated between the two governments and there was a structured way of working across the border, where we had the Kenya Revenue Authority and all other agencies working on the border, and there was that flow, it would have been better. But right now, the effect is it has increased everything in terms of food prices and security of allegations of security officers extorting locals from getting their goods in.
Yeah.
So
basically, corruption and smuggling. Of course,
smuggling, these are border towns. Smuggling is still a very big problem.
All right. So go on. Presidential candidate, Raila Odinga has made these promises about opening up the border. What would you say about this? Is this likely, and would this add to, of course, his chances?
First of all, I was in that plane with the leaders. I am also contesting as a member of Mandera County Assembly. So I was with Mandera leaders that morning when we came to Elwak, Mandera, but I didn't go back with him to Takava, and then he went to Wajir. When you want to do politics and when you want to implement a policy that is going to last for a very long time, then what happened is politicking. But if they say they are going to open the Somali border, then regardless of how weak or disorganized Somali government is, then they must be a two-table seated, kind of decision. It's not just what Kenya can say, we are opening our border. Then they open the border on the Kenyan side, and they have not consulted their sister nation on Somalia side. And remember, the people along this corridor are people of ethnic Somali. So they speak the same dialect with the people on Somalia side. They share heritage. So unless it is discussed between the Somali government and the Kenyan government, and then they open a custom station in Mandera Bulahawa, then there is a sister station on the other side, then goods are controlled and revenue is given to the Somali government, and then when they come to Kenya, remember Kenya is the second most taxing nation after South Africa. I mean, we tax including income tax. So unless that is done, it was just a political statement. If you look at UNDP reports on this border, we lose close to 2 billion Kenya shillings on smuggling and corruption. So it was a political statement, but those of us who will look at it in the history of this country and how porous the border is, and the nature of the people of northern Kenya with central governments in Nairobi, I'll take it with a pinch of salt, but it will be a good move if they talk to the Somali government, and then it is well structured, not just a political statement.
All right. Abdullahi, let's imagine that this works out, as promised, and that it's not just a political statement, and that both governments agree to eventually open this border. You've complained about some of the effects of the closure, the unofficial closure of this border, that there's been an increase in corruption and an increase in the price of goods and services. Do you think that the opening of this border, official opening of this border, would reduce massively the price of goods and services as well as corruption?
It will, and even it will reduce food prices. Remember, Mogadishu is less than 600 kilometers from Mandera, while Nairobi is 1,100 kilometers, so that's double the distance. So when you talk of prices, then it will have an effect because it will come the same day. These don't take, the roads are not tarmacked, even though the other one is even worse. It will reduce food prices, it will open business, it will create a good relationship between the two governments or two nations. The people will now have free movement between this country and that country. But you remember when you say you're going to open a border, despite the fact that there is a lot of things that's going to take place. In the first place, you want to open Somali-Kenyan border, you agree with it. It will not take the first 2 years of the government of Raila Odinga because they have to put up structures in place. You bring technology to monitor the border. People don't smuggle steel. You sensitize the public and the residents or civic education on the importance of having on both sides. It will have significantly effect on business between the two nations.
All right. Let's also now talk, politics more. Aside from, of course, this notable border opening promise, what other promises have been made, and how optimistic are Kenyans about, some of them?
Well, African leaders are good in making promises, and Kenya is no different. But if you look at the Kenyan system, Kenya is a two-tier system where we have the national government. We used to call it the central government that used to control all the resources from Nairobi. But currently, we have a devolved system after the 2010 promulgation of the new constitution. We have a devolved government. So national government functions are known, devolved government functions are known, even though the national government still retains 85% of the budget. They retain key areas in administration and security. If the government is willing to work with its people, then the relationship that is going to work for the people is going to be one that is what kind of a relationship with Raila Odinga, if elected president, will have with county governments. Because right now, counties have a huge money debt to the national government. Budgets have not been released. Currently, Mandera is, paying staff on overdraft from banks. So it has to do with how to improve our governance. But promises you make right now, that was the before. But right now, what he needs to do is make sure that first we don't have a country that is going into intolerance. Because if you look at what happened in Elwak in Mandera itself, there was a lot of, signs of a bit of intolerance between teams. And most of this is due to, leaders not coming together to address some of these things together. But Kenyans are hopeful. Raila Odinga is known to be a person who has been fighting for change, but some people might say he was fighting for pursuit of power. Right now, he is with President Uhuru Kenyatta. Some people believe that he's a project for Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yeah,
Elections will happen 40 plus days from today, and Kenya will have a new government. If it is his government, then he needs to invest in northern Kenya. We need to invest in agriculture. We need to invest in, livestock business. With the opening of the border, Somalia, then we can do a lot of business with Mogadishu and transport goods to Saudi because it's cheaper and closer from here. So we are hopeful. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's, one of the things that Kenyans would have hope. Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, came with a lot of promises. His time is up. Raila Odinga, of course, has been one name that has been contesting for such a long time. And of course, like you said, he's joined, teams with Uhuru Kenyatta. Let's see if, it will make a difference, if he eventually gets the mantle of leadership to take Kenya forward. But of course, we'll bring you in again, Abdullahi, and have further discussions with you on similar stories. Thank you so much for your time this Monday morning.
Thank you for having me. So say hi to the Nigerian brothers.
Absolutely. Oh yes, you should tell them Ututuoma. You did ask how to say good morning in Igbo. Is it Ututuoma?
I'm a good fan of the Nigerian writer. So writers, not just a writer. Chinua Achebe, Ole Soyinka. I've read about Ken Saro-Wiwa.
How sweet.
So I know a lot of Nigerian.
Oh, okay. That's really heartwarming.
Thank you very much, Fred, and see you again.
Anytime.
All right.
All right then.